everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Madison Paige and let's just jump into the video. A few things before we get started. One, yes, I am wearing a wig because I want to. This one's a little higher quality than my other ones that you guys have seen, and I'm wearing it for the reason I usually wear wigs, and that's because my hair underneath looks like crap right now. And the second thing is I will be reading off my computer as usual, just so that I have all the correct information. I didn't charge my camera before starting this, so I'm not sure how long I'm going to get through before it dies. Not that it'll matter to you, because you'll just see when I start up again. So here we are. Part 3 of my disabilities videos. This one is going to be about my breathing. It's going to be a little different because being unable to breathe isn't really a disability. Like, it is. I don't know, my breathing issues are a little confusing, which is why I am doing this, and I've classed them as a disability because they disable me on a regular basis. It's also going to be different because when I was asking my mum about it and when I was doing research, I found that there's less to it than my motor neuron disease or my scoliosis, but it's still kind of complicated and it's ongoing, so I am still dealing with it actively to this day. There are some current repercussions which I will be discussing at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. Same as last time, I just want to give a quick graphic image warning. I will be showing some disturbing images, assuming I can find them. I usually have them hidden away because I don't like to look at them, but if I can find them, I will be putting them up as I talk about what they pertain to, if that makes sense. So each photo, it's kind of a different thing, and as I talk about that thing, I'll put them up on the screen somewhere. I will, however, be putting time codes in the down bar so that you can skip them if you wish. So my breathing issue started pretty much immediately after I was born. According to my mum, who I got most of the information for this video from my mum. One, because my health records that I have access to, the ones that are on the digitized app that we have here, only go back to 2003. Now I'm assuming that's because anything before that has not been digitized yet, but I don't know. And two, because I was a baby, so I don't remember anything. So yeah, according to my mum, they did what they normally do, which was administer an APGAR test, which the APGAR test stands for appearance, pulse, grimace, reflexes, activity, so muscle tone, and respiration. Now they did that on me twice, which they do it on all newborns pretty much straight after they're born, and they did it on me twice, and I passed both times. It wasn't until I was moved out into the hallway to get ready to be moved to wherever they moved the babies to in the 90s. I don't know. I don't know if they were in the mother's rooms at that point or in that big room you always see on TV where they just have all the babies in one room. I don't know. Going off topic already. So yeah, I was out in the hallway getting ready to be moved, and my nanny actually noticed that I was turning blue. So she informed the doctor, and of course they were concerned because blue is not a good look on anyone, let alone a newborn baby. I love how I say that as I'm wearing blue eyeshadow. Not what I'm talking about, but it's funny. Now the doctors weren't super sure why I stopped breathing. Mum heard them throw out things like phrenic nerve palsy and diaphragmatic palsy, which both of those things have to do with the diaphragm being paralyzed, which as an adult, the diaphragm is the muscle that contributes most to breathing. You know, they help the lungs, they support the lungs, and yeah, and as newborn babies, the diaphragm is kind of the only thing that they use to breathe until they figure out what their lungs are and how they work. So for me as a newborn baby with a paralyzed diaphragm, it was not a good time, you know? While doing some research on all of this, which I do that for all of my disability videos so that I can kind of tell you what the fuck I'm talking about. I did find an article that discussed phrenic nerve palsy in newborns in more depth, which that will be linked down below because I feel like I've just done a terrible job at explaining it. I will say though that it is super rare, but so are most of my other medical conditions, or at least the reactions that I have to the treatment of those conditions. So what else is new, you know? Another thing that was considered was that it was some sort of heart issue. I'm so sorry, I keep looking at the viewfinder because I keep making sure that my wig is looking okay, but I will try to look at the camera. Another thing that was considered was that it was some sort of heart issue, because whenever I died, because that happened, it was always my heart that showed that there was a problem before they realised that there was anything wrong with my breathing. So they did think it was a heart issue for a little while. Even as I got older, my paediatrician thought it might have been a heart issue because I apparently had clubbed fingers, and club fingers are supposedly like a symptom of heart disease. Don't quote me on that though. I'm not a doctor. I am simply the biggest medical fuck up that you will meet on this side of hell. Still doesn't qualify me to be a doctor though. As you can see now though, I don't have clubbed fingers. I have acrylics that are in severe need of being redone, but no clubbed fingers. I found through more research, because I do my due diligence here. I found through research that clubbed fingers and toes can actually correct themselves if the underlying condition that caused them is treated. So yeah, I don't have clubbed fingers anymore, but I also don't know what the underlying condition was, but it's apparently now treated. So there's that. Going back to baby breathing problems, however, I ended up needing to be intubated, and this is super important because this is the reason for all my other breathing problems for the rest of my life. So most people, babies included, can be intubated multiple times, no problem. I, however, as we have established, am not most people. So upon being extubated, when doctors and the like thought everything was fine, my throat actually closed up. Once again, nobody knew why, and it was a super weird and rare reaction. I ended up having a tracheotomy put in, which I had in for 2.5-ish years. I may have said differently in other videos, but as we've established, I personally don't know what the fuck I'm talking about half the time. My mother, on the other hand, has a general idea of the timeline of my life, and this particular event she remembers because it coincided with the birth of my brother. The trachea, I think, is most of the reason that I lived in the hospital for as long as I did, but you know, it's fine. It kept me alive. My social skills are shot, but I'm alive. I'm so sorry. I have to keep putting stupid jokes in here so that I can get through it to the end. I had my trachea taken out at around 2.5, 3-ish years old, and at the same time I had my trachea, my airway, and my voice box reconstructed. So I didn't talk until I was like 2.5, 3-ish. My first word, according to my dad, was mum. Don't get me wrong, I had all of the knowledge to talk. I just didn't have, you know, the practical skills, or the voice box, or the ear. I was actually joking with my brother's partner the other day that that's actually quite similar to most of the aspects of my life. I have all the theoretical knowledge of a thing, I just don't have the practical skill to carry it out. Now, as for how all of this caused my breathing issues up until now, my lungs, for the most part, despite the fact that I continuously call them shitty, are actually kind of fine. They're weak, which is still due to the diaphragm being a mess and the rest of my muscles being super weak, but the lungs themselves are pretty healthy. Actually, they won't be anymore because I did have that stint with smoking. Don't smoke if you have terrible breathing issues, or like at all. Just don't smoke at all. But they were perfectly fine, and now they're probably just fine. The breathing difficulty itself actually comes from having a restricted airway due to scar tissue from the various intubations and surgeries. Now, there were many different methods and attempts at fixing this, one of which was a surgery known as balloon dilation. So a surgeon would put me under and put a balloon down my throat and inflate it, which would widen my airway by, I don't know, a few centimeters, something like that. This was done once a year or maybe once every 6 months or something. I can't really remember. Yeah, once a year or every 6 months up until 2010. And it did help a little. I think it helped my vocal quality more than it helped my breathing. I'm still looking at the viewfinder. The other thing that they tried was a VPAP machine, which I used 5 to 6 days a week, only at night, so when I was sleeping. Now, if you don't know what a VPAP machine is, VPAP stands for Variable Positive Air Pressure, also known as a bilevel. I have another, informative article which will be down below. It's a device that varies between 2 air pressures, one for inhaling and one for exhaling. So it's this mask, which if I can find some photos, I will put them around here somewhere. I know I had some on my USB stick, but if you follow me on Twitter, you will know that my USB stick is no more. It's a mask that is connected by a tube to a machine that controls air that blows in your face. Now, I had that for 1, for the lack of breathing, and 2, because I couldn't exhale carbon monoxide properly. So it just built up in my body, which is not a fun time. So I had it from probably around the same time that the balloon dilation started. Not entirely sure when that was exactly, but probably around then, up until about 2015. Now, I stopped using it not because I was allowed to, but because I hated it and was left unsupervised. Kidding. Mostly. I did stop because I hated it, and I hated it for some reasonable reasons and then some kind of stupid ones. Now, the stupid reason was that I thought I looked awful, which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter, but it mattered to me. I felt super insecure about it. This was also around the time that Mum started to attempt to blend our family with Ollie's other family. He wasn't born yet, but all of his siblings were, and they were all kind of young. So I got a lot of stares whenever I was using it and they were around, which really just drove home the fact that I thought I looked like a freak. As I got older, I also hated the idea of bringing anyone home, because, I mean, heaven forbid I bring home a man or a woman and, you know, whoever, and they saw me wearing this devil machine to bed, which is, of course, I mean, kind of crazy, because they're super common now. Like, I have at least 2 friends who have people close to them who use a machine. Not necessarily a VPAP machine, but a CPAP machine, which is the more common one. But yeah, that was something that always stuck with me. For the more reasonable reasons, it really fucked with my head. I got severe anxiety whenever I put it on. I got super claustrophobic. I did have 1 or 2 panic attacks, and yes, I do know the difference between a panic attack and an anxiety attack. They were panic attacks, and I cried every single year that they told me that I would have to wear it for just 1 more year. It's never just 1 more year. I do believe that part of that comes from one of the first times that I had to wear it. I was staying in the hospital by myself. It was one of the super rare times that I had to be by myself. And I had the mask on, which at the time was just like this tiny little nose mask. I ended up getting a full face one, which you would have seen the picture just before, but at the start I had like this tiny little nose one. I had that on, and I ended up waking up in the middle of the night. I don't specifically remember what was wrong, but I know something was, and I couldn't move because I had all these tubes connected to me. I think I was having a sleep study as well as testing this machine out for one of the first times. So I had all these wires and all these tubes, and it was just a mess. And I ended up calling the nurse, pressing the little button thingy, you know, and I was trying to ask her to get my mum, because Mum wasn't there, but she was not far away because it's my mum. If you've met her, that's all you need to know. It's my mum, so of course she's not far away. Anyway, I was trying to get her to call my mum, but because I had this fucking mask on, blowing air into my face, every time I opened my mouth, the air would just come back out. It was kind of ironic that this thing that was supposed to be helping me breathe was quite literally taking my breath away, which, if you've ever had your breath forcefully sucked from you, you will know that that does in fact make it a lot harder to breathe. I'm pretty sure I ended up just, you know, signing Mum, which really took me back to the no talking days. And the nurse, who up until this point had pretty much just been watching me choke on my own ear, realised what I was trying to do. And She assured me that she would be calling my mum. Spoiler alert, she did not call my mum. I stayed awake for the rest of the night, crying, trying to text my mum. I would have called her, but you know, when you can't speak. I only just realised recently that I still probably could have called her so that she would have at least heard the phone ring. But like, I was, I don't know, 12, 13. Who thinks of that shit, you know? A smart 13-year-old there too. Clearly I wasn't one. But yeah, I was texting her all night, trying to see where she was, how far away was she, if she was coming at all. And it wasn't until the morning, when the hospital opened and she came, that we realised that while she didn't hear my texts, she definitely would have heard a phone call, and she definitely did not receive one. And yes, she was in fact very angry about it. So yeah, my first experience with this devil machine was traumatic as fuck, and I had the pleasure of reliving that every time I put it on for the next several years. So yeah, when I moved in with my dad, him and my stepmom were great parents. Are great parents. My stepmom is still raising children. But because I was older, they gave me a lot more independence and freedom, which for this was probably a huge mistake because the second I had the power in my hands, I stopped using it. But honestly, it wasn't their fault. I'm just. It all worked out though, because my last few blood gas tests, which are the things where like they prick your finger and they test your blood for carbon monoxide, they all came back fine, which, I mean, they were the things that were saying that I needed to be on the machine in the first place. But yeah, they're all fine now, so technically I don't need the machine anyway. Yay. So yeah, that is my history from birth up until 2015-ish, and for the most part I have been perfectly fine since then. I still had trouble breathing, but no more than what I'd usually been living with. In the last couple of years, however, my difficulty breathing has increased quite dramatically. It is possible that it could be being exacerbated by my chronic pain, but it's not really a whole bunch I can do about that at this point. Older subscribers may have noticed the change in me, maybe in the way I speak or breathe. Probably not, since I tend to cut a lot out of my videos. Newer subscribers really wouldn't have noticed a thing at all. It has, however, gotten to the point where I'm going to be needing another surgery. Not super sure what that surgery is yet. The surgical plan that the specialist went over with us, Mum and I, obviously, had a lot of pluses and minuses, so maybe he'll do this, maybe he'll do that. He's not really sure until he actually gets in there. The one thing that I do know for sure, that I've been told by not one but 2 doctors, is that my voice will be affected. The way it was explained to me recently was that working with the throat and that sort of area is like trying to find a perfect balance between being able to talk, being able to breathe, and being able to swallow. Now, because breathing is what is causing me the most trouble, that is the highest priority. However, trying to get that to a good place will almost definitely affect the other 2 things. He said it'll definitely affect the voice and maybe also affect the swallowing. So, because I'm an adult now, I'm a woman, the decision to have the surgery was my own. It wasn't an easy decision. I have been struggling with it for a few months now. Even before I had to actually decide if I wanted a surgery, just the idea of a potential surgery was a struggle for me. I've even been talking a bit about it, or at least around it, in other videos. And let me tell you, some of you may have seen on Twitter recently, I've been kind of alluding to the fact that I'm dealing with something right now and it's quite difficult for me to like talk about. The few people that I have told know that it is a thing that makes me quite upset and quite emotional. Also pretty fucking angry. One of the main reasons it was a struggle, some people will know, like if you know me in real life, you will know that I was bullied a fair amount as a kid for my voice. I mean, for many things, but my voice was one of them. Even a little bit now, I still get the occasional comment on videos. people asking why is my voice fucked up or saying they can't hear me, which can be quite triggering, so love that for me. And while my voice is still fairly quiet now, it was a lot worse back then. It was kind of at the point where I sounded like I was whispering all the time, which, I mean, if you know my history, it's understandable, but kids both don't know and don't really care. Yeah, the idea of my voice potentially going back to that was not fun, but not being able to walk from my car to a building that I'm entering, whether that be from the hospital car park to the hospital or fucking from my driveway to my house, is even less fun. Sounding like Darth Vader when I have a cold. Not fun. That was something I had to come to terms with when making this decision. Another thing is this, YouTube. It is currently my only job. I don't get paid for it, but I still kind of consider it a job. My only hobby. And it obviously requires a fair amount of talking. In my case, a fair amount of singing. And the surgery may probably prevent me from doing that. It definitely will for a while. So after the surgery, I was kind of considering like vlogging the whole process, but also I don't really want to. So I don't know. But after the surgery, I will probably have to stop posting for a while or do those videos where you hold up fucking notes. If I could still speak sign language, I'd do that, but I can't really. But yeah, it'll definitely stop me for a while, but if something goes wrong, it could also stop me forever. Now, I'm not saying that because I don't trust my surgeon. I mean, I trust him as much as you can trust a stranger with your entire future in your hands, I guess. But the way that I am wired, I take in every possible scenario and I hope for the best, but I prepare for the worst. I don't know when the surgery will be. I'm hoping it's not too soon because I have the rest of Legacy to finish, which, by the way, the first little bit of it will be dropping Sunday or Monday, depending on where you are in the world. Monday for Kiwis, Sunday for everyone else, or Sunday for Kiwis if you're willing to stay up till midnight. I will be. I don't know why, but I will be. I've been told that I will maybe need to go back on VPAP before and after the surgery, which I am willing to do, but only if it is temporary. I know in the grand scheme of things that's a weird place to draw a line, but it's where I've drawn it. I actually had like a whole nightmare where I had to fight people because they wanted to keep me on the machine forever. Physically fight them. But yeah, that's where I am at the moment. It feels weird to say I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, but I do. I hope you found it informative. All links for articles that are more informative will be down below. Subscribe if you want. Tap the bell notification thingy to be notified every time I post. I didn't tell you to comment anything, but I mean, I don't know what to tell you to comment on my disability videos. Make sure you catch Legacy. It will be on a different YouTube channel, which will also be linked down below, so go subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye!